Good afternoon, everybody on YouTube Live. Just a quick note, we appreciate you coming. Make sure you click on there and subscribe. That's a thumbs up. Sorry about that. And make it so that you're alerted when we have these future sessions. You're not able to ask questions in a live capacity on YouTube with us today. If you have an interest, jump into our Zoom room. You should have a link to that. But if not, we will answer questions a little bit later on the YouTube area. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start welcoming you to our Gov School class today. We're going to give a few minutes to let everybody opportunity to get into the room. We usually get started at 2 minutes after. If you are on YouTube Live, note that we are not able to answer questions there. And also, if you're using note takers, I get a lot of requests for those. This is a recorded version, so you should be able to get information a little bit later, but the note takers tend to confuse things, and we don't want to have those in this particular session today. So apologies for denying those today. My name's Mark, and I'm going to lead this class, and we usually start at 2 minutes after the hour. This is one of what I consider as sort of a quick series that will be on YouTube Live, and then at the end, I'll stop and answer questions with you. If you do have a question as we're going through, you can't unmute yourself. Just remember that for privacy reasons, that you are on the internet, and everybody's able to catch those questions a little bit later. And I just want to make sure you're fully aware of that before you do that. Okay. I really appreciate you taking time on this Thursday afternoon to come listen to us. You know, we got about 14 more days, maybe 13 more days left in the fiscal year for federal government. And I think they seem to have worked out some disagreements, and maybe they're not going to shut down. We're all knocking on wood that doesn't happen. Is not a good thing. And it's kind of a silly way to do business if you ask us. But this is usually a grand time for government contracting as they're finalizing the year end. Frankly, it's been the largest spending period in American history. I think I read one statistic the other day, it was 7.5% up, and it's at the federal level alone. That's not including all the state and local governments that are also flush and have budgets and are aggressively pursuing contracting. Those typically are on a different fiscal year. I think if you're in a couple of states, they'll use the October 1st fiscal year. But what I'm going to teach you today, or what we're going to talk about today, is it can be applied to every level of government. But procuring and obligating the funds is really important in the budget year. So it's 3:02. We'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for coming today. My name is Mark. I'm one of the founders of Gov Directions RFP Delivery, and we are thankful that you allow us to serve you. We're now in our 27th year of working with clients, and have been through now 27 cycles of the end of the fiscal year for federal agencies, and it just continues to grow each year, and they are rewarding. I know this has been more of a challenging year, but I think a lot of it's just the rhetoric of all things. We don't really try to get into politics of things, but a lot of people saw some cancellation of contracts, and I think to an extent it wasn't as strong as everybody thought it was at the end of the day. And you're seeing some of those re-engaged now, but it's in the normal world. And what we're seeing now is that they held off from potentially some transactions, and this administration, while it's round two, this is their first time again of experiencing this end of the year cycle to make sure they get all those funds appropriated that Congress has given to them, and they don't eventually even claw back those funds. And so you'll see agencies move somewhat quickly with transactions, and I'm going to show you how to identify them. But before we do that, I'm going to actually tell you what you need to have ready to go in a quick way. Because if you don't have these things done, there doesn't really do you any good to go out there and find a bid and start trying to bid on. Because at the federal level, there's some specific requirements that you have to be aware of. Well, there goes our capability statement screen. That is one of the items that you have got to have in place. If you don't have a capability statement, we actually can get that turned around for you in 72 hours usually, once you get the forms and everything completed. So you just reach out to our offices. We have a great deal on those, and somebody can help you with that. But a capability statement is a one-page document that has 6 particular functions within that are covered within that document. It's not a resume. It is a document that's meant to really talk about what your company is capable of accomplishing. And what you often want to do if you're doing 2 or 3 different sectors is have 2 or 3 different capability statements. Because I frequently have somebody potentially is doing grounds and landscaping, and on the other side of they're doing some technology, and they're dabbling in different. We're all entrepreneurs after all. We dabble in different areas, but you don't really want to send a grounds and landscaping capability statement to somebody who's looking for a technologist, and you don't want to send a technologist capability statement to somebody looking for a grounds landscaper. So it doesn't really rhyme with the government itself, and so it's important that you have one available for each of those sectors and talk about those primary NAICS codes that you're assigned to those. And of course, nowadays, frankly, I've been around long enough that we didn't even have capability statements, but the more recent years, they've stepped forward and governments requiring them. Now you're actually seeing state and local governments use them in a proactive way. I've had one for years, and I use mine not only for federal. I've in 27 years, I've never really have pursued a federal contract. One time, I primarily focus on state and local, but I still have a capability statement, still have a UEI and a cage code. 2 of the things you also have to have in order to pursue a contract, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. But I use my capability statement in a proactive way to actually have like a placeholder when I'm actually doing a presentation to pursue a contract. Oftentimes in my business, you start off with a proposal, then you're invited in with an actual presentation, and I use that as opposed to the actual document itself for the proposal. That sometimes can get a little bit confusing as you're trying to make a pitch in a 4 or 5 minute, maybe 10-minute time frame. And so the capability statement is very, very important. As you step into the capability statement, and just remember, the first thing you actually have to have in place is your UEI, the unique entity ID. And if you don't have one, you can get started here. I just like to always call attention. It's 100% free to do this process. I know that a lot of us are marketed to, and sometimes in a way that potentially doesn't have the best scruples, but it's suggesting that we're going to be expiring and we're doing maybe you're going to fall off the face of the earth. It's flat after all, and you just get all these kind of marketing, but it's not that difficult to get. It's 100% free. The time you provide the information to somebody else, you can do it yourself. The key things to remember: the first is that your name of your company is exactly the way you have your tax record set up, and your address is reflective of your tax records as well. And that should always be a physical address, not a virtual address. And that's important to get yourself registered. You got those 2 things in place, you usually can sail right through that registration process in about 45 minutes. We do help with that. If you have a need to get a UEI or to renew your UEI. I had a client just the other day who won a contract and didn't realize that his UEI had expired until somebody went to go and check it, and then it had already expired. And we tried to get through the process of helping him. In fact, we were able to get him through there, and he received the award, and he was able to and it's one of the very first contract he pursued. In fact, so that was excellent news. When you get your UEI, the second part of that, UEI basically sets you up into SAM, which is the System for Award Management. It's not a bidding platform. A lot of people can get confused about that. It does publish contracting information and another piece of information, but it's not a bidding platform. You don't bid on the system. It is an accounts payable vetting process. It's basically a fraud prevention system. And so when you get this first part, the UEI, unique entity ID, then you're eligible to work with most federal agencies. Going a step further, you get your cage code, and those additional numbers and letters mean something to every contracting officer. And when you have those 2, that basically is a seal of approval. And it means you can then go out and actually bid. And when you bid, you're going to follow the instructions that are available within SAM for each of those. I'm going to get into SAM in just a second with a live view of this. But when you have your UEI and your cage code, then you'll find yourself in the DSBS system, the Dynamic Small Business Search System. And having a good profile here, a strong profile, is really the most important thing you can do in anticipation of this low-hanging fruit that we discussed near the end of a fiscal year. Fiscal year, of course, is the time of the budget for the government. It's October 1 to September 30th, generally. Now, they typically go through and they do a continuing resolution, goes a little bit further, but a good contracting officer is seeking to expend those funds to basically obligate them before the end of any fiscal year, so they don't really lose those. And so they're trying to make sure that the process of working a contract is starting and ending before during that fiscal year that the money is appropriated. And so as a part of that, they may have some smaller transactions that they need to do, and they will come and look in this database potentially for contracting off for contractors to do things. Say, for example, if you were in the business of selling tires, I might come in here and say tires and search, and I need to order maybe 100 tires, and it's not going to fit a requirement that I actually go out and actually bid it. I can actually make a transaction approval process, or maybe get a quick quote from 3 companies, and the first 3 or 4 that come up are going to be ones that I'm going to probably pay attention to. There's 1,322 after all, and I certainly don't want to go through all of those. In fact, whenever they go in and they look at this database, and I should point out that you're automatically in this database when you register in SAM. Okay, and as soon as you're approved, you get your page code. This is an overlay. I think it's taken about a 4-day cycle to get you into the system. So you need to, if you are getting your UEI now, you need to make sure that you go into the system in a timely way. They recently revamped it as of July 1st. I'm not truly a big fan of the changes and just yet, because it's not quite all working. And when you get in there, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I've tried to help them out a little bit to help them understand that, but that hasn't been too receptive. But I'll share you some problems with it that I've found. The first thing is whenever you actually sign in here, and if you control your account, they pull you into the system, they capture certain pieces of information about you, then you are responsible for going in and updating it. Okay, so you come here and you sign in here, and when you sign in, you don't use your SAM registration or login.gov. You got to create another registration that it's basically tied to your Small Business Administration account. Okay, so if you're not sure if you have one, when you do go to sign in, then you can come here and log in as a business owner, and you'll find a process to basically to set yourself up. Okay, when you do that, you claim your business up in the upper right hand side, and that will give you control over your information. And some of the things that I've noticed recently, okay, see if you see here, a lot of the areas are blank, and there's also it's expected until you get an SBA certification, woman-owned small business, veteran-owned small business, not just the total small business, which is also a certification, but that's not what they're doing there. If you're in this directory as a whole, you're considered a small business, but you're not. The capability state part of it is not being picked up, or people are not completing it. And this person here has done a good job, Miss. It looks like Lisa Myers with this company, and they've basically set their account up the right way. So maybe I'll use them as an example. But one of the things I've noticed were those who are recently registered. You can come here and see those that have been more just in the last few days. Maybe in the last week or so. I'm seeing that a lot of folks are not paying attention to their registration in such a way that they are excluding pieces of information in when they do register, so that people don't have access. And that basically is sending a sign. For example, you see here this yellow here, it's basically a check off, and you hide it's basically your information is hidden until you uncheck it. And you need to make sure if you want government contracts, that information is available, and you need it, and it's not hidden, because basically what you're doing when you do this is you're sending a message to all these contracting officers that I potentially had to register in SAM for a particular reason, and I'm not really interested in contracting like these others who are giving all this information, because I can just email Jeremy, or I can pick up the phone and call them and get more information about it. So if you do tell them that, you're excluding yourself. You don't necessarily want to do that. And somebody's asked me, what was that website again? This is the DSB. It's got a different domain name now, but I always type in DSBS. That's what I've known for some 20 plus years, dsbs.sba.gov. It's a subdomain of this Small Business Administration. DSBS stands for Dynamic Small Business Search. Okay. And then you come here, and then I would go in, potentially search the word tires, and then I would see those companies that have the service for tires. Okay. And when I open that up, it's going to have particular information about me, including my UEI and my page number, which is so important. But just as importantly, it's going to have a capabilities narrative. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things about this narrative. It's great to write a good 3-sentence paragraph, and show off your writing skills. But the truth of the matter is, you use this for on the keyword search functionality, and you get 1,000 characters. So my recommendation is always, always, always get yourself a capabilities narrative that has 1,000 keywords in it and use it effectively. And if you can't write that well, go into Chat GPT and ask it to write you 1,000 character, not words, 1,000 character capabilities narrative that fits the DSBS profile, and you'll get a good one. Okay, give us some information about you. And then this one here, of course, doesn't have a capability statement link, which you need to do. In fact, let's go here. I'll go brag on myself just a little bit. And because I've got a listing in here, and I'll show you a real live one that you need to. This is so important during this particular time frame of low hanging fruit. And so if someone who has the information there and you got your capability statement right when it comes up, it's like that. When they click on it, they see your company. Okay. And that sends a signal to the contracting officer that you're ready to go. And you know what they want right now more than anything else? They want to know that you're ready to go. They don't want to be fumbling around with you at this point. So if you don't have your capabilities narrative set up, you don't have your capabilities statement there, and you don't have, and you're telling them that you don't want to be called, well, you're not going to be called, and you're not going to get a contract, and you're not going to get it. You're just wasting your time. So you got to get this done correctly. So the stages of this process: first, register in SAM, System Forward Manager. Get your UEI, get your cage code within a couple of days. This will appear for you to actually go and step in and update. Then you sign in at the top. And then when you sign in, you get control of your capabilities narrative. And then you can actually put that information there. And it's really, frankly, immediate. And now I'm not sure how quickly the indexing is. I'm sure that's probably on their next update of some sort. But, based on my experience with this particular process, and I'm telling you, it's taken, for example, just until recently, I do this routinely. So like just since yesterday, how many people registered, and it tells me zero. Well, the truth of the matter is probably 1,000 companies registered and updated yesterday, and so it's just not in there yet. And let me see how far back it goes before they actually pick up. 9/16, yeah, still 2 days, no, nothing. So everybody's coming sort of Johnny come lately. They're not going to get those contracts with this process once you get in there and get in there quick, okay? Because that's important that you do that. And then you have that capabilities narrative and statement linked on there at the time. So if you don't have one yet, by the time you get registered or your UEI, you can have a statement ready for you to go. And those 6 characteristics of 6 areas that they're looking for, codes and your core competencies and core mission and your contact information and so on. We've got a video that talks about that. You'll have that ready to go. Okay, now that's more being receptive to someone searching for you and finding you, and then having you potentially provide them a quote, request for quote. Now, sometimes a government, and I would say most times, and let's just go into RFP delivery for a minute. If you come in and you very quickly and you want to just see what's really out there, what's moving quickly, you can come in and do a quick word, maybe just search the word quote. And because the quotes are the ones that are moving very, very quickly. Okay. That means that all I got to do is get a quick quote from you, and then I can go ahead and strike a transaction. Most contracting officers can go up to a certain level. I think state and local governments typically about 25,000. If you're a federal officer, you can go at a warrant level or much higher, much higher. And these transactions can happen really quick. Somebody in this particular case for a 1-ton pickup truck, it's due September 19th. Somebody potentially can win it and be closing on that transaction within September 20th, September 30th, in that time frame. So it's not uncommon at all. Okay, so they can move really quick. And you'll see some of these sole sources, and that's the ones that you really don't need to worry about. They've already made a decision. They already went out there and they found somebody, and they said, basically telling the market really quick, hey, we had to go ahead and just do this. And they'll justify it, saying, they need it done quick. And these are deals that have already been done. So you can skip over those. But going in and first searching the word quote. Okay, and you can save your keyword searches in our system and run them and you get them timed. The last one will always show up first one. So we just added a new quote for array system here in New York. It just came in. Okay, so it's so that was the last one. Here's the one that we just talking about. But as you step down here, you'll see some of these transactions, and you'll see here at the federal level, will tell you what stage they're in. Okay, so if it's solicitation or if it's a general contract at the DLA, it's just a typical federal. And we also will tell you if it's a set aside of some sort in the title. And so it'll come in there and you can look at, so there's a total small business, only small business can bid, then we will. So you have your quotes, and then you have your combined synopsis solicitation. These are quick transactions moving quickly. It's a streamlined acquisition. Okay. A more traditional solicitation is taking a little bit longer. And sometimes you'll also see a special notice of some sort. That means that we got to make a quick decision. We need you to respond somewhat quickly, and we're moving quickly. I've seen some here in the last few days that are giving them 3 days turnaround. So those are the ones that you kind of watch for. And it's frustrating as heck when you go in there and you see a bid, you just found it today and it's due in 2 days, but that's because they're moving quick. And they're really going to deal with the ones who are ready to go. Okay. In that process. And so when you open up any of these, of course, like this one here, you actually will see the details. You step into it, you actually leave us with an external link, and then you go directly to that agency and you're bidding with them in their process of the bid. Okay. Sometimes you have to log in, like in Missouri, you have to go into the Oracle system in order to actually bid on the project. Okay, at that point, we've stepped out of the way. There's no finder's fees and anything like that. We really have helped you in that process. And so I mentioned too that, maybe you're going to go bypass us. You really are right now really only looking for federal. Then you could come in. Oh, well, before I leave here, I'll just tell you one quick thing. So let's just say maybe I am only looking for quotes in potentially in equipment and auto and tires. So I might come in here, QUOTE. I'm not sure I spell it correctly. I'll go in here and I'll choose my industry. Maybe I'll just drop down to equipment, auto, parts. And then what I would do is go in and I can call through with other qualifiers if I want to, but I can apply the filter. And then I've got the word quote in auto. There's nothing at this particular moment in those areas. I probably should have tested a different one before I decided to do this, but you can do that very quickly in your own category. Okay, so make sure you do that. And just because there's no quote there now, I might go back and just really quickly run it in case there's a potentially a if there's a tire bid or there's some sort of other total small business set aside or solicitation, they just didn't put the word quote in it, then that would help me too. So there's 509 actually in that category. And you're seeing a lot of small transactions here under streamline acquisition moving somewhat quickly. Okay. So that's a way. And so that they're there. And what you're going to find is the ones that are really moving quick, they're also going to have a streamlined um, acquisition process in terms of the documentations required and so forth. Usually some sort of like a 1449, 12, I forget, is it 1449, 1249? It's basically where you just basically put in your price and then you're able to pursue, move forward with that. Apologize, I've got to a point in my life where I start forgetting some of these numbers and acronyms. But each of these, they're there for you in a quick way. Now, leaving us, and I'll just tell you, you can store these searches, you can run the keyword search, and we have a quick tutorial online if you need that. When you come in, you can click here and say, let's Zoom. You can actually schedule a class with us, but you can watch the recorded demo right there. And if you find one, you need a little bit of help, to choose the open discussion, there's no charge for that, but call our offices and we'll get you set up. And we can actually even write your response for you to get it out the door for you in a quick way. With that said, I was going to go finally, I'll come here under SAM, the System for Award Management. I did mention not a bidding platform, but it is a place where I can go and search and watch and see the contracts that are over 25,000. Okay. And so this is one location. But this is really only going to be for transactions that are over a certain dollar number. When you first see it, you notice it's going to have active and inactive. You get a lot of information. Go ahead and turn off that inactive, and then you'll see what's really active right now that you can actually respond to. Okay, and in some of these transactions, you'll see like this one here. It just recently updated. It was published on the 17th, due on the 18th. Okay, so they move quickly, move quickly. Here another one, 10 days. Okay, so they want you to respond. That means they're moving quickly, and they got to get those things obligated before the end of the year. And that's so important that you're ready to go. And I want to guarantee you, I can just do a keyword search of capabilities and which one's going to require the capability statement, and say show them right away. They want capability statements in there. And also these industry day events that have frequently what they sometimes refer to as pocket contracts, where basically I'm able to engage in a transaction with you pretty quickly. So make sure you watch out for those industry days. Those are really a quick way to get some of that of those smaller contracts, and it will take a little bit of risk on you, get you that past performance sometimes that you don't have that. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop at today, and I appreciate all of everybody joining us on YouTube Live. I'm going to stop the recording there, and then give everybody in the room here a chance to ask me some questions, and we can do some live searches for you here in just 1 minute. Let me quickly go there. So thank you for joining us on YouTube Live, and remember that you'll be able to come here afterwards and see that real quickly, so that you can actually watch it over. And for those who are not in here, came here a little bit late, you can also go there and do that. Okay. So let me stop the recording here. Okay. And I need to figure out